how. Isn't that? The only other word I know is Peugeot, so this is it. I want to talk to you today a little bit about how to use social science and behavioral economics to design the world, to design lots of things in the world. This is a list of New Year resolutions. How many of you have made New Year resolutions? I'm not going to ask you how many of you have already violated them. I have. The thing about these New Year resolutions is we make them year after year, and we violate them very, very quickly. And the fact that we violate them tells us a couple of important things. It tells us that we know what we want to do, but it tells us that just knowing what to do is no guarantee to actually acting differently. There's a huge gap between what we want to do and what we actually do, and the question is, how can we narrow that gap? How can we act in a way that is closer to the ideal that we have? So let's think about a couple of examples. Let's start by losing weight. So we wanted to help people lose weight. Lots of ways to think about it, lots of ways to start the journey of losing weight and improving our health. But there's a couple of things that we want to think about. Losing weight is something that we need to do every day of the week. We can't do it 5 days out of 7. And we have to start in the morning. We can't start after lunch. So what did we try to do? We said, let's think about the bathroom scale. Now, what do we know about the bathroom scale? We know 3 things about the bathroom scale. The first one is that it's really good to step on the scale every morning. This little ritual of stepping on the scale is really good because it reminds us that we want to be healthy. We're reminded that we want to be healthy, and we eat a little bit less for breakfast. If we step on the scale at night, we just go to bed. By the morning, we forgot the whole thing. The second thing we know about weight is that weight fluctuates a lot. It goes up and down, depending on salt intake and when we went to the bathroom, and that creates what we call scale aversion. Imagine somebody who doesn't change their weight, and the weight goes up and down, up and down. On the day when it goes up, really miserable. The day it goes down, slightly happy. Real miserable, slightly happy. Real miserable, slightly happy. On average, it's not good news. And then the last thing we know is that the scales confuse people. People say to themselves, I have been on a diet for 2 days already. And they expect their weight to change. But weight doesn't change that quickly. Weight can take 8 days, sometimes 2 weeks to change. So what happened is that people don't lose that much weight. Now imagine we took these 3 points. Good to step on the scale every morning. The variance confuses people. And the fact that the speed of change is too slow demotivates people. How would you solve that problem? We decided to do a scale with no display. We said if stepping on the scale is a good thing, let's get people to step on the scale. And if they stepped on the scale, we say, good job, congratulations. And then we do give people feedback, but we do it on a 5-point feedback mechanism. We say, congratulations, you're just the same. Or the trend is slightly worse, slightly better, much better. And we tested this. Oh, one more thing. When people step on the scale and they look at the app, we give them other recommendations. Go for a walk, drink a little bit of water, all kinds of things. And we tested this scale with no display. What happened? In the control condition, people who got the regular scale, people gained 0.3% of their body weight every month for 5 months. The study lasted 5 months. People in our experiment, in our condition, with our scale, first of all, they said they improved their health decision. 79% of them stepped on a scale 6 times or more per week. And as a consequence, they lost 0.6% of their body weight every month for 5 months. That's a great success. That means that we can take everyday objects, like a scale, look at it from the perspective of social science, think about it in a different way, and design it in a way that will be more compatible with how we make decisions, and therefore get to better results. And of course, it's not just about the scale. We could do it for blood pressure. We could do it for blood sugar levels, lots of other things. That was example number one. The next example is from financial services. This is an example about trust and insurance. So the first thing I want to say is that trust is really important. If you think about who you have trust with and who you don't, it's incredibly important. Societies that have high trust enjoy a much higher GDP, and companies that we trust get higher benefits from this. Now, in this particular case, what we said was, where is trust broken? Where is trust broken? And we said, often trust is broken in insurance. Think about what happens in insurance. Let's say property insurance. You have the customer and you have the insurance company. And the customer pays the insurance company and pays the insurance company and pays the insurance company. And from time to time, something wrong happens. And then the customer wants the insurance company to pay them back. But what does the insurance company want? Not to pay back. So what do we, as consumers, do? We know that the insurance company doesn't want to pay us back, so we exaggerate. We exaggerate our claim. We imagine we have higher, bigger television or more expensive jewelry, and we exaggerate. And the insurance company know that we're exaggerating, so they make it difficult and complex, and they sometimes deny claims. That's contradiction between the customer, the insurance company, is basically a system that is based on conflicts of interest and mistrust. Now, we decided to try and change it. We created a little company called Lemonade, and we decided to fix it. How did we decide to fix it? We said, instead of a two-party game, let's have a three-party game. Let's introduce a charity to the mix. So imagine all of you join Lemonade, and all of you join Lemonade under the umbrella of a particular charity. Let's call it the World Wildlife Fund, a wonderful organization that helps preserve nature. What happens? You pay Lemonade. Lemonade takes a fixed amount, pays back claims, and if there's money left over at the end of the year from your pool, it all goes to the charity. So think about that system. You know that Lemonade doesn't make more money if it denies or accepts claims. It's indifferent. And if you now exaggerate and you cheat, who are you cheating? Your favorite charity. That's a different system. It's a system that is designed not to have conflicts of interest and to create trust. Now, what happened? We started this in New York City, and a few weeks, 2 weeks after we started, we got the first interesting email. Somebody wrote us and said, I insured my apartment with you. I told you somebody stole my laptop and you paid me, but I found my laptop. Nobody stole it after all. How do I return the money? On that day, I called all my friends in big insurance companies, and I asked them, what is your regular process for how do you get money back from consumers? They don't have a process because it doesn't happen. So the good news is that if you create a system that creates trust, that ensures trust, people could actually live up to their expectation and everybody could be better off. Here is one practical trick to getting increased trust. In this particular experiment, imagine I'm a waiter and I come to a table with 4 people. I come to the first person and I say, what would you like? And the person says, I want the fish. And I say to them, the fish is not so good today. Take the chicken. It's cheaper and better. And remember, I'm the waiter. I make tips. I make 15%. So if I recommend that they take something cheaper, it means I will get less money. And then we measure how much the second, the third, and the fourth person take my advice. That's case number one. Case number two, I come to the first person, I say, what would you like? And they say, I want the fish. And I say, the fish is not so good today, take the lobster. It's only 3 times more expensive, but it's really good. How likely are people now to take my advice? Not so much. What happens between the first waiter and the second waiter? The first waiter demonstrated they're willing to lose something for our benefit, for the benefit of the customers. The second waiter, maybe they gave you wonderful advice. Maybe the lobster is an amazing lobster, but you will never know if they worked for you as the customer or they worked for themselves. So a big hint about creating trust is to show people that we care about them when we're about to sacrifice our own utility. Okay. The third experiment I want to tell you is an experiment in which we try to get very poor people to save a little bit of money. These are people who live in a slum called Kibera in Kenya. They live on about $10 a week. And we want them to save a little bit of money for a rainy day. The standard approach to how to get people to save more money is just to educate people. Just to tell people, hey, it's important to save. But you know what? When you look at it, it turns out that educating people about saving, doing what is called financial literacy, doesn't work. In the US, we spend between $700 to $800 million a year on financial literacy, and the results are really sad. The results are really sad in terms of the improvement in financial well-being, and these are the good side of the results because that's immediately after people learn. Later on, it goes down even more, and in total, the improvement is 0.1%. So instead, we tried something different. We went to M-Pesa. M-Pesa is the Kenyan payment company, and we created a system where people could SMS money into their savings account. And then we said, what else can we add in terms of motivation? And we tried all kinds of things. We sent people SMS as reminders. We sent people reminders from their kids. We gave people 10%. We gave some people 20%. And some people got the coin about this size with numbers around it. And we asked people to put the coin somewhere in their hat, and every week to take a knife and scratch the coin this way if they didn't save, and this way if they saved. What happened? When we asked people what they think happened, people think that the most amount of saving will come from the 20% bonus. But the reality is that the coin was the biggest winner. The coin got people to save the most. Why? I started thinking about the coin. This is how the coin looked like. I started thinking about the coin when I was in Soweto. Soweto is a slum in South Africa. And I was sitting in a place that was selling funeral insurance. This is a funeral in South Africa. You can see it's very festive. People spend a lot of money on this. And in this particular case, I saw a father coming to buy funeral insurance for a week. And just to be clear, what it means is that the insurance will pay him only if he dies in the next 7 days. And he got the paper certificate for his insurance, and in a very festive way, he gave it to his son. As he was giving this to his son, I was thinking to myself, what is this father doing? Why the little ceremony? Why the festivities? Now think about the very poor father who takes money away and puts it in insurance or saving. What will the family see tonight? They will see less. At that level of poverty, there'll be less food, less water, less kerosene tonight. And what his father was doing is to say, it's not less, it's just different. And our coin was trying to do the same thing. Our coin was trying to tell the family, it's true that there's less food on the table, but it is because there's some saving for the benefit of the family. By the way, the more general principle here is to think about the visibility of money, saving, and insurance. And if you think about some things that are invisible, like saving, and something that are very visible, like spending, that asymmetry makes it very hard to save, makes it very tempting to spend. Of course, these lessons of conflicts of interest and visibility apply to many other financial services. The last example I want to give you is about motivation in the workplace. In this particular example, I got data going back from 2006 to 2017 about how companies treat their employees, and how companies treat their employees on 80 different dimensions. A dimension could be quality of coffee, or equality of salary between men and women, or it could be the quality of the furniture, all kinds of things like that. And I played the following game. I said, imagine it was 2006, and I got my first data, and I took one dimension at a time, maybe the quality of coffee, and I sorted the companies from the companies who treat their employees worse to the companies who treat their employees best, and I bought in the stock market in 2006 the companies who treated their employees best on quality of coffee, and I kept their stocks. And then in 2007, I got new data. And maybe a new company became really good, and one company dropped, and I changed. And I kept a portfolio of the company who treated their employee best on quality of coffee, and on gender equality, and on each of those dimensions separately. And what you see here in the graph, each black line is one such strategy. It shows you what will happen if you bought in $1 in 2006. That index, quality of coffee, gender equality, and so on, what will happen at the end of 2017? And the orange line is the S&P 500. The orange line is the index of the American stock market. And as you can see, almost every strategy, aside from one, is better than the S&P 500. That means that I can look at how companies treat their employees without looking at financial outcomes, quarterly earnings, yearly reports, and I can beat the S&P 500. The same thing happens if you buy the companies who score low. They do worse than the S&P 500. So what can you do with this? You can look at all the dimensions that we have. I'm showing you here just a sample. And you can start speculating which one of those is predicting good success in the stock market. We don't have time for me to let you predict right now which one you think will be good predictors and which ones are not. So here's the list. The one in white are good predictors of success in the stock market. The one in red and a strike-through don't seem to matter that much. By the way, some of those surprised even me. And we can take the good ones and we can combine them, and we can say, what would happen if we had $1 in 2006 and we invested it in the American stock market in the Russell 1000, like the S&P 500, just slightly more companies? We would have about $3 at the end of 2018. What would happen if we invested in companies who treat their employees well? We would have almost $8. Think about that. Companies who treat their employees do much better. By the way, when you think about it, it's not a big surprise. What is the engine of growth for every company? It's how human capital. It's the power of people. And we have to start realizing that companies that treat their employees well are going to do better. In general, we often have the model of treating people like rats in a maze. The idea is that people don't like working, and we need to pay people in order for people to have money to do something that they like. But the reality is that there's a huge range between the minimum amount we need to do to keep our job and the maximum we can do if we truly love what we're doing. And that gap is called goodwill. It's the gap between what we have to do not to get fired and what we can do if we're truly excited. And getting people to live up to their potential means that we have to treat people well. And if we treat people well, they treat the company well, and the virtuous cycle continues. To summarize, let me say the following thing. I showed you 4 examples. I showed you how we can look at everyday objects like a scale. I showed you 2 examples from the financial world about how to think about insurance and how to think about savings. And I showed you something about how you can use social science to look at the workplace and improve motivation. More generally, human beings are amazing creatures. There's lots of things that is wonderful about us. There's also some things that are irrational about us. But if we want to design the world in a way that would maximize human potential, we have to take that into account. Over the last 200 years, if you think what we have achieved is we became closer to Superman. We used to have Superman here when we were here. Now we can fly with planes. We can be in cold weather with good clothes. We can be in hot weather with air conditioners. We can do all kinds of things that we were not able to do before. All of that by surrounding ourselves with technology. What about the mind? What about technology for the mind? That's what social science can provide. And as long as we think about this technology for the mind, we can actually do much better and we can live close to our true potential. Thank you very much.